Shalom, shalom, peace, peace. This is Jadiel from the Fourth Angels Learning Center. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to our study today. Today's study is going to be on the second angel's message. We went over the first angel. If you haven't already saw that, you need to go there. You're going to try to understand the sequence of how we're going to go through these messages. All right, so we broke down how the first angel had different elements to it, like fearing Yah, giving glory to him, what that actually means, worshiping him, the hour of his judgment has come. All these different elements is a reflection of the truth, the message, the good news that has to go to all the earth. So now we're going into the contrast now. Now we're going into the exposing of the lies and exposing of the error. So when the truth goes out, there's this magnifying or this manifestation of what's wrong. You know what I mean? Sometimes you can't really give people when you give people the good news, it's also kind of showing the contrast. Is allowing others to kind of examine themselves based off of what is good to determine whether that good thing is already here in my life. And so when we get to the first angel's message and we're breaking it down and it's talking about the everlasting gospel has to go to all the kindreds, nations, tongues, and people, then we go to Babylon is fallen, that great city. And we're going to dissect this in multiple videos as well. The first thing we're going to do is look at the elements of this message and what it means. And then the second part, we're going to actually describe and break down what Babylon is. So what is the message, and then who is Babylon? These are the two elements that we're going to be discussing. So before we get started, I want to let everybody know if we've been a blessing to you guys and you guys want to support us, you can support us at 4alc.com. You can also support us at Cash App at $4ALC blessed. That's 4ALC BLESS. All right. So let's get started. We're going to start by going to Revelation chapter 14. So we're going to go to Revelation chapter 14. And we're going to we're going to breeze through the first angel, right? And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having an everlasting gospel to preach to them that dwell on the earth. It's the reason why I'm saying that. As is into every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. And then it breaks down the elements of this message by saying, fear Yah, right? Fear Elohim, give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come. Worship him that made the heaven, the earth, the sea, and the fountains of water. So the next element to this message, this threefold message, with a fourth combined into it. The second part, it says, and there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Okay, so the first angel element was to preach to everybody that dwells on the earth, every nation. And the second element is a manifestation of Babylon and what she made all the nations receive. So it's very important that we understand that combination. All right. So I want to first allow everybody to understand Babylon is not talking about the geographical location of Babylon, but it's utilizing the word Babylon to help us to remember something else in scripture. Babylon is a description of the characteristics of how this system or how this influence works. So let me just first go to Genesis to see the very first Babylon, right, under the king Nimrod. So right here in verse 8 of Genesis 10, it says, Cush begat Nimrod, and he began to be a mighty one in the earth. He became famous. He was a mighty hunter before Yahuwah, wherefore it was said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before Yahuwah, meaning that this was like a catchphrase. He was so famous that this became like a catchphrase. Like if somebody wanted to feel good about themselves, they would compare themselves to Nimrod as being a mighty hunter. But look at what he says. It says the beginning of his kingdom was Babel. Babel or Babylon. This is ancient Mesopotamia, right? The ancient Babylon. This is before, um, way before Nebuchadnezzar. So this is not talking about the time of Nebuchadnezzar. This is talking about one of the very first civilizations. Matter of fact, the the archaeological findings, the oldest archaeological findings come from the Sumerians, which is located in this particular area at this, like maybe not this time, probably like a little bit before the time of Abraham, but literally this area is is where we find the oldest archaeological findings of civilization. So we see that kingdom right here is being started. It was called Babel, and he made another city called Erech, Akkad, Kelna, and these cities he made around the land of Shinar. Shinar is another name for the word Sumer, which is, ancient Sumeria. So, um, very interesting. So Nimrod started the kingdom of Babylon in the land of Shinar. Let's go to chapter 11 so we can kind of see the characteristics now of this kingdom. It says here in verse 1, it says, the whole earth was of one language and one speech. So the whole earth was speaking, in a way where they can all understand each other. Then it says, and it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found the plain of the land of Shinar. This is what they're talking about. They're talking about the building up of this kingdom of Babylon. But look at how it describes it. The whole earth. They found this land of Shinar and they dwelt there. And they said to each other, let's make brick. Let's burn them thoroughly. And they made brick and slime from mortar. And look what they say in verse 4. It says, and they said to go to, let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach the heavens. Let us make a name. Let us make a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. What does it mean to be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth? That means that there's a consequence that Yah steps in. Yah steps in. The scattering has always been a magnification of, or manifestation of Yah bringing judgment or a negative disciplinary act on the people. Israel was scattered to the four corners because of their disobedience, their rebellion, their sin. And we see here that they're trying to escape Yah's consequence by building a great city, and a tower. And it says, and Yah came down and see the city and the tower, which the children of men built. And Yah said, behold, the people is one. The people is one. They have all one language, and this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down and therefore confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech, that they may speak differently from one another. So Yah scattered them abroad from thence the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city, meaning that they were not able to complete the building of this city. Therefore, the name of it was called Babel, because Yah have did their confound the language of all the earth. And from there did Yah scatter them abroad the face of the earth. So they were trying to avoid Yah's punishment. So they were directly opposing Yah and his ways. And then they tried to exalt themselves to the point where they can avoid his punishment. So this is very interesting because this was affecting the whole earth. Remember, the whole earth was influenced by this kingdom, was influenced by this king. Matter of fact, we saw in Genesis chapter 10 that this king, Nimrod, was a famous king. He was known to the point where people would compare themselves to him. And now we're seeing that this manifestation, this king has now influenced the whole earth, speaking the same thing, influencing each other, to build a city to avoid the punishments of Yah. Meaning that they didn't want to repent. They just wanted to, I would say, not overthrow, but they wanted to escape what Yah was trying to reveal to them, or what he was expressing to them, or what he desired from them. Um, so this is why the scriptures refer to this power as Babylon, because as we see, let's go back to Revelation. As we see in Revelation 14, the characteristics of Babylon is a contrast to the characteristics of the first angel's message. So, first angel's message is to preach the truth to all the earth and all the nations. And then there's a manifestation in the preaching of the truth. There's a manifestation that Babylon has fallen and is prepared a drink for all the nations, has been spreading these lies. They call it the great city, which we saw in Genesis chapter 15, that the people collectively, matter of fact, the word city is actually a reference to a civilization. So meaning like you can't, you have to have a certain type of population in order to have a city, or it would be called something else. So city is just referring to the amount of the population, or the amount of people that's gathered together. So when it says the great city, it's talking about how this Babylonian, or that's this confusion, this polluted influence has a large population with them. Okay. Let me show you a couple instances in which Yah does this, where he uses different geographical cities to express the characteristics of these people. So look at this. Revelation 11 also describes the great city. Let's look at verse 8. It says, "And their bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually," and now it says spiritually, is called Sodom and Egypt. Remember, this is the end. We already broke down that this is the time of the end, where it says the hour of his judgment is come. But we're looking at this and we're seeing these characteristics referring to Babylon being the whole earth, and now it's referred to as Sodom and Egypt. And remember what Messiah says: just as the days of Sodom and Gomorrah was, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. And Egypt is always a reference of bondage throughout Scripture. So there's a lot that this great city, or this dense population of individuals to influence, the working together to influence the rest of the world. Let's continue to break this down. We looked at the contrast, right? So the contrast is that the truth has to be preached to all the nations. And now we're seeing that all the nations is being revealed that Babylon is fallen. What does it mean that Babylon is fallen? We already know that they're a great city. What is, matter of fact, let's look at that. We already know that they're a group of people. Does Yah use this term city to refer to a group of people? Absolutely. He actually refers to his people as the great, as a city as well. And let's go to Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah, chapter 1. Let's look at verse 26, right? Look at what it says. He's talking about the restoration of his people. He says, "I will restore your judges at the first, and your counselors as at the beginning. Afterwards, you shall be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city." You shall be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city. So he's not talking about like a geographical location. He's talking about his people. After his people's counselors and judges and teachers are being restored, that his people will begin to understand righteousness and walk faithfully, and they're being referred to as a city of righteousness. And that's what happens even in the book of Hebrews. It talks about when we come to Yah, we have entered into Zion. We have joined ourselves. We have become a part of this city. Look at Hebrews chapter 12, looking at verse 22. It says, "But you are come unto Mount Zion, unto the city of the living Elohim, the heavenly Jerusalem." So you came to Mount, you are now come. You are come unto Mount Zion. You are part of Mount Zion now. You are part of the city of the living Elohim, the heavenly Jerusalem. Was Paul in Jerusalem? Matter of fact, in the very next chapter, I believe so. Let me see if I can find it right here. The very next chapter, Hebrews chapter 13, it says here in verse 14, it says, "For here have we no continuing city, but we seek one to come." So he's talking about an actual physical place. But in chapter 2, it wasn't talking about you are now come to Mount Zion. You are now come to the city of the living Elohim. He was talking about you are now a part of his people. So the term city or great city is referring to the people, not necessarily a geographical place. So Babylon is referred to as the great city, meaning it's a large population that's fallen. And what does fallen mean? You have the truth, right? I got to go back to that because everything revolves around this truth, this good news. So you have this truth being preached. So then you have this contrast. You have the enemy producing this contrast, spreading this contrast to try to pollute and destroy what the truth is supposed to do, restore and uplift and give life, right? So it's very important that we understand, why are they falling? Are they falling because they worship other they definitely worship other gods, but that they worship other gods and they never came in contact with Yah, or they read other books and they never come in contact with the scriptures? Absolutely not. Look at what it means by their fallen, because it clearly says, let me show that first before we go to we're going to go to a few places. So Revelation 14, look at what it means by fallen. Now we're going to put all of this together at the end. It says Babylon is fallen, that great city. And it says, because she made all nations drink. She made all nations a drink of wine of her wrath of fornication. So Babylon is fallen doesn't mean that the Babylon is destroyed at this point. At this point, this message or this warning is to show that Babylon has fallen away to the point of no return. Let me show you this. Second Thessalonians, and we see Babylon is fallen. We talked about the glory, right? First, we talked about give glory to him, and we talked about that was a reference to obedience. That was a reference of a manifestation of belief in his word and trusting in his word to obey it, to manifest it in your life, to live by faith. So when we're getting to Babylon is fallen, we're looking at a different type of people, right? Second Thessalonians chapter 2. Look at what it says. It says here in verse 3, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come. What is it talking about? Verse 1, it says, now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our master Yahushua Messiah, and by our gathering together unto him. So it's talking about the day that Messiah comes back, the end, right? The time of his judgment. It says, do not be deceived, for that day, talking about the coming of the Son of Man, that day will not come except there be a falling away first. So what happens to these people that are falling away? It says, and that man of sin be revealed, the man of lawlessness be revealed, the son of destruction. So the falling away doesn't destroy. It's not necessarily in this context referring to the destruction of Babylon. The falling away is a manifestation of the corruption. It's a manifestation of what's making everybody drunk. People are drunk because they don't know. But this message, the first angel, is making everybody see what is Babylon and what is her wine. So that way they can examine themselves and come out of it. If you're drunk, you're just drunk. But if you're analyzing who is Babylon, you get sober. It's like sobering. Not only is the falling away first a manifestation of Babylon, the great city or the group of people, but it's also talking about a man of lawlessness, like a person who's just kind of like Nimrod, setting up a kingdom of lawlessness, Let's get away from Yah. Let's do this for ourselves so that way he can't scatter us. This is law. This is what lawlessness produces. Oh, Yah has a commandment. So yeah, let's get away from these commandments. Oh, we can go to the kingdom without these commandments. Oh, matter of fact, he's not going to punish nobody. He's gonna do this, he's gonna do that. Whatever it is, it's the same characteristics of Nimrod. It's the same characteristics of that Babylonian empire, which is why Babylon is such a strong depiction of what this falling away does. Let's go to Romans chapter 1, because now that we see that this lawless man, this man of sin, this man of lawlessness is revealed, we also see that Babylon is a great city, a group of people, a large population of people working together to pollute the nations. Let's look at Romans chapter 1. This is how Babylon falls away. This is how you fall away. You can't fall away if you was never at one point connected to Yah. If you was never at one point connected to Yah and in his scriptures, you can't take his scriptures and twist it and pollute it. And let me show you the combination between Romans 1 and I'm gonna go back to Second Thessalonians 2, because I think this is a very important principle for us to grasp. Look what it says here in verse 18 of Romans chapter 1. It says, the wrath of Elohim is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteous men who hold the truth in unrighteousness. It says, because that which may be known of Elohim is manifest in them, and Elohim have showed it unto them. So these are individuals that were in a relationship with Yah, that Yah at one point saw it fit to reveal these truths to these people. It says the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and divinity, so that they are without excuse. And it says here, because of this, because nature shows it, because Yah showed it to them, because they held the truth in unrighteousness. Look at what it says. When they knew Elohim. So now they're saying that these people knew Elohim. When they knew Elohim, they did not glorify him as Elohim. Someone else was Elohim. Neither were they thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. So they had the truth, but they did not acknowledge Yah as Elohim. Let's go back to Second Thessalonians. Look at what it says right after the man of sin is revealed, right? It says this man of sin revealed, the son of destruction, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is Elohim or that is worshipped, so that he as Elohim sits in the temple of Elohim, showing himself that he is Elohim. This is why they did not look at him that way. This is why they did not look at him as Elohim. Now, as we look at back in Romans chapter 1, I don't want to go back and forth so much. I just want to show the correlation between these two groups of people, and that you can only fall away if you was once standing with. If you're standing with Yah, then you can fall away. You can't fall away if you was never with him. I just want us to understand that, so we could understand who Babylon is in the next part. But right now, we could understand not necessarily who Babylon is, but what Babylon is doing. How is Babylon making the nations drunk? If they were once with Yah and Babylon has fallen away, what are they doing? These people will reveal truth, right? Look at what it says in Romans. It says, wherefore Elohim gave them up to uncleanness through their own desires and their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves. And look at what they did in verse 25. It says, who changed the truth of Elohim into a lie. See, they didn't go and make their own book. They didn't go and make their own ideas. They took the truth that they held in unrighteousness, as we saw further up in verse 18, who hold the truth in unrighteousness. They took the to change the truth, turned it into a lie, worship the creature more than the creator who is blessed forever. Amen. What does that mean? They took, they worshiped the creature. We just saw in Second Thessalonians that this lawlessness in the last days, before the coming of the Son of Man, this lawless one is going to be looked at as Elohim. They're going to be looked at, they're going to be revered as Elohim. So pay attention. Here in Romans, it's saying that these people are turning the truth to a lie and they start worshiping creatures. They start worshiping not Yah, something else. And then it says, for this, Elohim gave them up to vile affections. For even their women changed the natural use that is against nature. So now they started to manifest pollution amongst themselves naturally. Homosexuality. Verse 27, it says, likewise, also the men, leaving the natural use of the women, burn in their desire one toward another, men with men working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense their error, which was meat. It says receiving in themselves. It doesn't mean that they were destroyed at that moment. It means that they have now allowed themselves to be so far away from Yah that this is the only thing that is due for them, which is a repayment for their errors. It says, even as they did not like to retain Elohim in their knowledge, Elohim gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient. So in Second Thessalonians, when it talks about that man of lawlessness, it continues to say that this man of lawlessness is worshipped. And that's what it said. They changed the truth into a lie and they worshiped the creature rather than the creator. And this man of lawlessness is a creature. He's a created being. That's what creature means. And it says here further down, if we can move further down, which we're going to move forward, it says, with all deceivableness and unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth. The love of the truth, what we talked about, the everlasting good news. If this is they didn't have a love of the truth, so it says that they might be saved. For this reason, Elohim shall send them strong delusions, give them over to a reprobate mind, that they should believe a lie. Not that they should be destroyed, but that they should believe a lie, and that they all might be damned who believe not the truth, but have pleasure in unrighteousness. Going back to Revelation 14, Babylon is fallen away. This great city, this large population of people have moved away from Yah because they hated to retain the truth, which is that they needed to fear Yah. They needed to give glory to him. They needed to worship him. But instead, they created these ideas that made all the nations drunk. Now, what does it mean by made all the nations drunk? Right? The interesting thing is that the location of this message right here in Revelation 14 is obviously the beginning of the end, right? So there's a magnifying of this message. At one point, right here, we see that in the Greek, it's actually showing us that this, where it says, she made all nations to drink, that word is G4222. It means to furnish a drink, meaning to prepare a drink, to pour a drink, irrigate, this is. So to furnish a drink or to irrigate, to prepare it and pass it out. It doesn't mean that they're forcing everybody to have it, but they're preparing it. They're giving it to everyone. We clearly see that this is magnified later on, because when we get to Revelation 18, we'll see that all nations have drunk of the wine. But we're not going to look at that right now. So what is this message for? The pollution of lawlessness, the teaching of lawlessness, the worshiping and the revering of a man of lawlessness, the giving over of a reprobate mind, and then the pollution of this twisting of Yah's truth. This is specific. This is the twisting of Yah's truth and then spreading that throughout all the nations. The reason why it's called the wine of the wrath of her fornication, it means that this unlawful fornication, emphasizing on unlawful union, the unlawful union of this Babylon and every single nation is this wine, this pollution, this this I don't know, hypnotism or whatever it is to consume and pollute the mind, to allow the mind not to be able to discern properly, is very important right here, because the nations drink this wine of her unlawful union. So they begin to connect themselves to this, it says her. So to this woman, it connects itself. This pollution causes you to connect yourself to this woman to try to receive more from them. So Babylon is a manifestation that the first angel's message is true. The first angel's message is to fear Yah. What does that mean? To give glory to him, to worship him. Even the hour of his judgment has come. You got many people in Babylon talking about we're going to be here, we're going to be here forever, or we're going to be here for thousands more years, whatever it may be. It's literally a manifestation. It's literally being able to be seen. It's a revelation. Like, oh wow, Babylon is fallen. Wow, this religious group has fallen. That religious group has fallen. These religious people have fallen. They have drunken this Babylonian doctrine that has been, passed around by this particular influence. Because remember, Second Thessalonians chapter 2 says that this is talking about the end. So the Son of Man is not coming unless there's a falling away first. So it's talking about the man of lawlessness being revealed. That's what this message is about. The lawless man being revealed, the one that started all this. Just like how we looked at Nimrod starting Babylon, we're looking at this lawless man starting this pollution of the whole earth. How did he pollute the whole earth? Well, he took the truth, which we saw in Romans chapter 1, changed the truth into a lie, held the truth in unrighteousness, worshiped the creature rather than the creator. And Second Thessalonians chapter 2 shows us that the lawless man is who everyone is revering. So this is very important for us to grasp. So this message is a revelation of what's wrong all over the nations, and what they all need to understand is what the first angel reveals. All right, so I'm going to stop right there, because part 2 I want to kind of dissect and dive into who is Babylon. Right now I just wanted you to see like an outline of what this message is why this message exists, is because the first angel's message is basically exposing the confusion all over the world, to the point where this truth reveals how fallen away this institution is, how fallen away this group of people is, how fallen away the nations have become, that the nations are partaking of this pollution, and how horrible it actually is. And so this is what I want us to see, that this is a warning to come out of those confusing ideas, of those twisting of scripture, of those pollution, in order to get you drunk, in order to get you to help you to lose uh, sobriety. I think let me see. Yeah, look at what it says here. First Thessalonians chapter 5. It says, first verse 6. It says, therefore, let us not sleep as others do, but let us watch and be sober. For they that sleep, sleep in the night. They that be drunken are drunken in the night. Let us who are of the day be sober. And look what it says, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, and helmet, the hope of salvation. So is constantly telling us to be watchful, to understand, right? To be watchful is also meaning to understand, to see, right? To be blind is also to not understand, to not be able to see, to be in darkness. So When we're looking at Babylon giving people this wine to make them drunk, to give them drink, so that way they can become drunk, it is to darken their mind. And that the truth is supposed to be manifested to reveal how dark our minds are and what we need. We need to repent and come back to the Messiah. We need to come back to Yah. We need to give glory to Him. We need to fear Him. We need to worship Him. And we also need to acknowledge that the hour of His judgment has come, that we don't have a plethora of time. So the next part, we're going to break down, now that we've broken down all those elements, the next part should be a much quicker flow. We're going to look at who is Babylon. We're going to look at, according to history, according to what we can see today, who is Babylon, and the description that it paints her in Revelation chapter 17. So if you guys want to read ahead, you can definitely go ahead. If you have any questions or anything involving this message, maybe you should wait until the second part before you have that question. But feel free to send me an email. Let me know what you guys think. And if you have any questions or topics or any suggestions on what needs to be broken down even more, please let me know. I'll be happy to do that. And I'm glad that you guys came and tuned in. I look forward to studying with you guys soon. Shalom, everyone. Shalom, shalom. Thank you guys for joining our study today. I hope that it was edifying. And if you want to support this ministry, you can support us on 4alc.com. And don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube page. Click the like button and the notification bell. I hope to see you guys on the next study. Shalom, guys.